gbogbo ẹ̀yin ọmọ ọ̀dọ́ tá a jọ ń káàkiri ọ̀dọ́jọ́ ni wá ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ kí a fi àyè gba Fúlàní lórí ilẹ̀ àwọn bàbá wa ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ ká bú ọba mọ́ ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ ká bú jòyè mọ́ nígbà tá a la fẹ́ jà fún àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ wa táwa ń kọ́kọ́ ń bú ọba tá à ń bú jòyè èmi náà ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ rí bọ́ mo pera mi padà ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ ká bú àgbààgbà kankan mọ́ ẹ mọ̀ bolóṣèlú kankan ẹ̀rù kálukú ń bẹ̀rù wọn ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ ọba ò lè sọ ìjòyè lè sọ ẹ jẹ́ ká ronú ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ ká bá àwọn bàbá jà mọ́ ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ bú wọn mọ́ ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ àṣẹ wọn àwọn ará pẹ̀lú wọn àwọn àgbà tán bá jó lóṣèlú tá a bá fẹ́ kọ́ wọn rẹ̀ wá lọ́wọ́ á gbé wọn mọ́ra á gbé wọn mọ́ra ni à ní bú wọn mọ́ ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ àṣejẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ mọ̀ jẹ́ àdàlúrú a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì ṣèjẹ̀gbọ́n a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì yìnbọn a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì dàlúrú gbogbo protest mo ṣe ní ìlú Nàìjíríà mi ò rí ibi tí mo ti ẹnìkan lè sọ pé mo pààyàn tàbí mo jó nǹkan náà tàbí mo bà nǹkan jẹ́ mo lọ písù torí pé olówó lèmi náà tí ò bá sólówó lára ń dì mọ́ gbogbo nǹkan tọ́lọ́run fún yẹn lọ́lọ́run fún mi mi ṣe tálákà tó dé pé mo dìde fún jà Yorùbá big man ni mi àwọn tó jẹ́ ọ̀rẹ́ mi tó súnmọ́ mi tó ní owó ní kí ni mo wá lọ bẹ̀ pé sọ́wọ́ lè mò ń fẹ́ ni kí n sọ yìí tí mo fẹ́ mo ní ìsọ̀rọ̀ owó àní ọ̀rọ̀ ìran mi ni mò ń sọ kí n wọ gbowó kí n gbéra kí n pé mò ń lọ ọ̀dọ̀ ọba àgbowó mò ń lọ ọ̀dọ̀ oníbodè òfin gbowó kí n kójó wọlé kọ́kàn mi balẹ̀ kí n dá wa mọ́tò kí n mọ́ rìn bọ̀ kí Fúlàní mọ́ da mi dúró ń títì kí n délé kí bàbá sọ pé kí n gbé tírélà sùn kí n mọ́ gbé lọ àwọn bàbá wo lè lóko mọ́ wọn ò lè lódò ẹ jẹ́ ká fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ ká ti àwọn bàbá wa lẹ́yìn ká dá security ti wá lẹ̀ ká sọ fún wọn kí wọ́n bá wa fọwọ́ tì í ká lé wọn kó nu oko wa ẹ ṣé mo dúpẹ́ Jésù Olúwa wa.
KOIKIMEDIA, we're bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
KOIKIMEDIA, 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 we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
KOIKIMEDIA, 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 we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
Àwọn sálára àgbà yìí dá, àwa ló láṣà àti èdè. Gbígbédè lárugẹ nílẹ̀ Oòduà o, àwa gangan ni bàbá.
KOIKIMEDIA, 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 we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
They never sabi wetin we carry for her.
But they move closer before they go sabi.
I said they never know wetin we carry for body.
But they move closer before they go sabi.
Ọ̀kín lọ lọ́jà ẹyẹ, kìnìún ló ló lajú.
Ẹyẹ tó dorí kodò bí àdán ọ̀pẹ̀jẹ̀ lẹ́nu.
Ká ṣiṣẹ́ fún ilẹ̀ bàbá wa, ká ṣiṣẹ́ fún ìlú bàbá wa, ká jùmọ̀ sowọ́pọ̀ ká lè gbódúdú àga.
Odùduwà kò bá lè gbé wá.
Ọmọ Odùduwà ṣègìrì, ẹ dìde fún ẹ̀tọ́ adúláwọ̀, ká lè jọ jùmọ̀ gbé délẹ̀ ìlérí, ká wálé gba ògo ilẹ̀ wa, ká ṣiṣẹ́ ká lè jọ gbàdé, ká lè gbàdé adé adúláwọ̀, àwa ni mọ̀lẹ̀ tí yóò tàn káàkiri.
Pé ọmọ Odùduwà ni wá.
KOIKIMEDIA, àwa là ń gbé tó lárugẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá máa ní.
Kásá ẹgbẹ́ polówó ọjà wá kájé bùgbà yín jẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá máa ní.
À ń gbé tó lárugẹ, à ń gbàsà lárugẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá máa ní.
News and sports ẹ máa rí gbọ́.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá máa ní.
Ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú alárẹ̀ mi ló ní kí n máa ké tantan. KOIKIMEDIA ọ̀rọ̀ lágbájúmọ̀ mi o, máa bá ṣẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ o. Ọmọ Yorùbá nìyẹn, ọmọ Yorùbá tata o. À ń gbádùn rẹ, ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú alárẹ̀ mi, ṣẹ́yìn ló máa fi dìbò tẹ̀ mọ́lẹ̀ o. Ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ onígbò máa ń dé mádémádé, ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ onígbò máa wọ̀ o. Igbó máa wọ̀ dájòjì ò gbọ́dọ̀ wọ, àjòjì tó bá wọ bẹ́ẹ̀ á tẹ̀lé ní ẹbọra. gbọ́dọ̀ máa náwó kóyìnbó tó dé ìgbà tó yìnbó dé o owó náà dẹ́ tún pọ̀ sí o Koiki Media ṣàwa ní bàbá. Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àdáńtọ́ àtúnpèrègèdè.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àwa là ń gbé tò lárugẹ jẹ́ ká jọ gbọ́ o.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àtúnjà fẹ́tọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa fẹ́tọ̀ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Ọmọ Òdùwà ni wá o tọkàntọkàn.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Ikú tí ó ṣe bí lébi òsì àdìmú bàbá iyọ̀.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
We bring you up closer to your doorstep.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Afẹ́fẹ́ tó ń fẹ́ o tó kàn kí oko lára ni.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àpèrègèdè Olódùmarè ló fún wa ṣe.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Gbogbo ayé ẹ gbọ́ àwa ní bàbá o.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Ẹ máa bọ̀ wá ẹ gbé polówó ọjà yín wá o.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Odùduwà lágbé dání òtítọ́ lágbé dání.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
A kì í sọ̀dálẹ̀ a kì í sódì kẹta.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àdúró tán a tún pèrègèdè.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Koiki Media we bring you up closer to your doorstep.
Àwọn ní bàbá.
Koiki Media is around.
To give us latest.
Is around o.
Give us latest.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ẹ mú kalẹ̀ sílẹ̀, ẹ tẹ́tí ẹ gbọ́ ètò tó kojú gbogbo.
ladies and gentlemen,
Ẹ mú kalẹ̀ sílẹ̀, ẹ tẹ́tí ẹ gbọ́ ètò tó kojú gbogbo.
Koiki Media is around.
To give us
Koiki
latest.
gbogbo ẹ̀yin ọmọ ọ̀dọ́ tá a jọ ń káàkiri ọ̀dọ́jọ́ ni wá ẹ má jẹ́ kí a fi àyè gba Fúlàní lórí ilẹ̀ àwọn bàbá wa ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú ọba mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú jòyè mọ́ nígbà tá a la fẹ́ jà fún àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ wa táwa ń kọ́kọ́ ń bú ọba tá à ń bú jòyè èmi náà ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ rí bọ́ mo pera mi padà ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú àgbààgbà kankan mọ́ ẹ má bolóṣèlú kankan ẹ̀rù kálukú ń bẹ̀rù wọn ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ ọba ò lè sọ ìjòyè lè sọ ẹ jẹ́ ká ronú ẹ má jẹ́ ká bá àwọn bàbá jà mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ abú wọn mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ àṣẹ wọn àwọn ará pẹ̀lú wọn àwọn àgbà tán bá jó lóṣèlú tá a bá fẹ́ kọ́ wọn rìn wá lọ́wọ́ á gbé wọn mọ́ra á gbé wọn mọ́ra ni à ní bú wọn mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ àṣejẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ má jẹ́ àdàlúrú a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì ṣèjẹ̀gbọ́n a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì yìnbọn a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì dàlúrú gbogbo protest mo ṣe ní ìlú Nàìjíríà mi ò rí ibi tí mo ti ẹnìkan lè sọ pé mo pààyàn tàbí mo jó nǹkan náà tàbí mo bà nǹkan jẹ́ mo lọ písù torí pé olówó lèmi náà tí ò bá sólówó lára ń dì mọ́ gbogbo nǹkan tọ́lọ́run fún yẹn lọ́lọ́run fún mi mi ṣe tálákà tó dé pé mo dìde fúnjà Yorùbá big man ni mi àwọn tó jẹ́ ọ̀rẹ́ mi tó súnmọ́ mi tó ní owó ní kí ni mo wá lọ bẹ̀ pé sọ́wọ́ ni mò ń fẹ́ ni kí n sọ yìí tí mo fẹ́ mo ní ìsọ̀rọ̀ owó àní ọ̀rọ̀ ìran mi ni mò ń sọ kí n wọ Ìgbòho kí n gbéra kí n pé mọ̀ ń lọ ọ̀dọ̀ ọba Ìgbòho mọ̀ ń lọ ọ̀dọ̀ oníbodè of Ìgbòho kí n kójó wọlé kọ́kàn mi balẹ̀ kí n dá wa mọ́tò kí n mọ̀ rìn bọ̀ kí Fúlàní mọ̀ dá mi dúró títì kí n délé kí bàbá sọ pé kí n gbé tírélà sùn kí n mọ̀ gbé lọ àwọn bàbá wo lè lóko mọ́ wọn ò lè lóńdò ẹ jẹ́ ká fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ ká ti àwọn bàbá wa lẹ́yìn ká dá security ti wa lẹ̀ ká sọ fún wọn kí wọ́n bá wa fọwọ́ tì í ká lé wọn kó nu oko wa ẹ ṣé mo dúpẹ́ Jésù Olúwa wa.
And a very good afternoon, and welcome once again to a fantastic Friday, the 8th day of the month of March 2024. My name is OLAYOMI KOIKI, and also one out of many Yoruba nationalists that want to be free from the 1914 amalgamation of Nigeria put together by Britain, during the colonial time. It's been another beautiful day so far, and I'm looking forward to this presentation, and I hope that we can learn one or two things, regarding the country I'm going to be, doing my presentation on. This presentation is going to be in English, so bear with us. If you're not conversant with English, there's not much I can do, because when I'm on this platform, I am talking to many international observers, those that are now sitting and watching what could be the end of Nigeria, whether it's going to be a civil war, whether Nigeria will be divided without a war, which is going to be a velvet divorce, whether Nigeria will go into anarchy stage, whatever is going to happen, there are now international observers that are monitoring some of the platforms like mine and some of other platforms as well, so that we can continue to let them know the reasons why the Yoruba people are campaigning on a daily basis, so that we can have our right to self-determination. Self-determination, as it is known, is an Article 3, which says indigenous peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they are freely determine their political status, they are freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. We want to be developed. We want a Yoruba, system of government. We do not want the same system that was set up by the British for their own selfish interests as a corporate entity known as Nigeria. I will not be able to start mentioning names. Let me first just only appreciate Professor Banji Akitoye. Let me appreciate all the leaders of the movement. Let me appreciate the YSDM. Let me appreciate Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho, and I will appreciate my mom as well. Likewise, my wives and my children, I would also appreciate them. But for the rest of you, we will give those appreciation if time permits towards the end of the program. First and foremost, I don't know whether many of you are aware of this country called Vietnam. If you're not aware of it, you will learn a lot about Vietnam today, because I'll be taking you through stage by stage what becomes of Vietnam, and how Vietnam has now become one country that many countries around the world, the last country that have just signed a cordial relationship, a very, very high level tie, is Australia. What is the population of Vietnam? How did they become a very strong country today in their little Southeast Asia where Vietnam is? America has a cordial relationship with Vietnam, as well as Russia, as well as China. It seems that everyone is running to Vietnam, maybe because they have a vast amount of resources. So this afternoon, I'm trying to see how we can link Vietnam into Yoruba nation conversation. I'm ready to learn. I'm also ready to go back and do more research with the little that I've done in the last couple of days. If you're new to this platform, this is a self-determination platform, and what we discuss only is to break Nigeria, or disamalgamate Nigeria, or dissolve Nigeria. It can be done, like Chief Sunday Igboho said in that video, that we don't need to fire a gun before we leave each other. But we know that it is not going to be an easy task. It is not the first time in the history of nationalists. I am a proud nationalist, and I remain so. I'm a proud Yoruba before Nigeria. I'm a proud Yoruba man. I prefer to be known as Yoruba because that truly gives my true identity around the world. So when we talk about the benefit of Yoruba nation, it is not just because Fulani is attacking our farm. It's not because Fulani is kidnapping, as we saw in Kaduna State in the last 24 hours, where over 300 children have been kidnapped. It's not because they are damaging our crops. That is not the reason why we are asking for Yoruba nation or Oduduwa Republic or Yoruba Kingdom, whatever we decide to call it. The reasons why we are asking for Yoruba country is so that we can take a full control of our identity. We can keep our language. We can keep our own passport, like the Vietnam passport, which I believe is on the number 92 in the world ranking. We can have our own currency. We can also use our resources to have a better relationship with countries around the world, as rather using Nigeria as part of why they need to keep us together. So this afternoon, we will look into a little bit background to Vietnam. From what I've read and what I'll be looking into, and like I say, we hope that we can gain as many information, if time permits. If otherwise, we will continue the second leg of this particular broadcast. Please share the program. It's going to be important that many Yoruba people understand the reason why we are calling for the dissolution of Nigeria, so that we can use our resources to leverage around the world. Today, the reason why Vietnam has become a country that is now using that particular country for leverage is because Vietnam is becoming not just the global power, it's also using their resources. We have vast amount of resources, but these resources are not making any impact on the lives of many Yoruba people. And today we have millions of Yoruba people that are living in abject poverty, even though we have vast amount of resources across different parts of Yoruba land today. Why is this happening? Is because Britain knew that after the colonial or the empire, which ran for about 200 years, rather than allow Yoruba people to go their separate ways as they founded it, rather than allow the Igbos, the Hausas, and the rest of the different ethnic groups that are inside what is known as Nigeria today, they rather call it Nigeria through a fraudulent amalgamation in 1914. Just after the amalgamation, we started working again to try to gain an independent country. And that is what led to Nigeria today. Even though what we got in 1957-58 was a regional government, but all that has been destroyed for the selfish interest of the British government that knew that we are not one and we cannot be one, but rather they kept deceiving many Nigerians that election will resolve the problem, even though countries around the world are also asking for the right to self-determination. What are those countries? We have Scotland. Scotland does not want to be part of this union that was set up in 1701. They want to have their own full independent country. Even though Scotland, as it is today, is far better than Nigeria because Scotland has its own parliament, they have their own football team, they control their resources, but they are still under what is known as the Great Britain. But Scotland doesn't want that anymore. Rather, the Scottish people want to have an independent Scotland. This is what we are asking for, nothing more than that. We are not interested in the political party. We are not interested in the trying to save Nigeria, because trying to save Nigeria has led to many lives and it will remain so.
Other countries were refused at first, but we have to remember, and this is a really important point, that self-determination is an inalienable international right and a law as well. And other countries will recognise Scotland's democratic choice expressed at the ballot box. They will recognise that because that is the route that many other countries have taken in order to become independent. And just to make that point, that international law is very pragmatic on that point, so we should have confidence in that. Other
impediment to Yoruba development. It's the impediment to Odua development. Without Nigeria, we won't be where we are. 1962, we were far ahead of South Korea and North Korea. We were far ahead of China even. We had television before France. We had radio before South Africa. Now look at where we are today. I think it's a shame that even any Yoruba man can be talking about restructuring at this point in time. What are we restructuring? This country that is already shot to pieces? I don't think that's what we want. But they are always talking about giving Nigeria a chance. The patience of Yoruba with Nigeria has come to an end.
Well, as much as it has come to an end, many Yoruba people still do not believe that our relationship with Nigeria has come to an end. We saw people went to vote in 2023 because they believe that a Yoruba person or a Yoruba man is far better than having a Yoruba country. But we come back to that. So let's talk about Vietnam, which is the country that we want to talk about today. We're going to look at so many different angles of this particular country. Vietnam is spelled as V-I-E-T-N-A-M. That's Victor, Indigo, Echo, Tango, November, Alpha, Mike. In case you have not heard about this country before, well, I mean, let's, tell you that this is a very beautiful country for those that have traveled down there. It's somewhere in the south, in the Asia side of the world. As we speak today, their population is 97.47 million, according to the World Bank in 2021. They have their own currency known as Vietnamese. They also have their language, which is something that we always talk about when we say that we want to come out of Nigeria. Our language is the key. Without your language, you are not a country. Nigeria does not have a country, and we are proving that beyond every day, and we will continue to do so. Maybe we should remind you what these our brothers said when it comes to whether Nigeria is a country or not. Let's listen to this.
There is no land called Nigeria. There is no language called Nigeria. There are no people called Nigerians. We are only deceiving ourselves.
We are not Nigerian.
Okay, where is Nigeria? Where is the land called Nigeria? What is the Nigerian language? We are nations that had been forced together to live in one pathetic country. So anybody who goes there today to say pray for Nigeria, that person is just deceiving himself, because the people who want to be that Nigeria had not sat down to agree if they want to be Nigeria.
And now we are trying to ask people that we should sit together so that we can ask ourselves whether we still want to remain Nigeria or not. But it seems that some people are running away from the true conversation. I'm really talking about our politicians from the Southwest. They are running away because they know that the day that many Yoruba people understand that we are not Nigerians, then the question mark is, who are we? We are Yorubas before Nigeria. And we have always been Yoruba because there's a lot of evidence that points to that. And maybe we should just quickly give you one more pointer before we go into the conversation of today. Once again, today is the 8th day of the month of March 2024. It's coming up to 18 minutes past 3 p.m. local time in London, where this transmission is coming from. There's a particular place in Ondo State that prove beyond that we have been existing 13,000 years. You heard it very well. 13,000 years before what is known as Nigeria today. The whole project Nigeria put together by the British is just less than 110 years old. But many Nigerians that are living in denial want me to throw away a 13 years old country or people, nation, and save what is just less than 110 years old. Not even up to 1,000 years. Nigeria is not up to 1,000 years. But evidence pointed out that somewhere in Ondo State, this is what researchers found some years back.
This is a replica of a skull from Nigeria, and it was dug up in 1965 by Thurston Shaw and his team, an archaeologist. It is about 13,000 years old, And my colleague Katerina Havarti used a new technique of digitizing the surface of the skull in 1972. And she found, as I did, that it does not look like recent African material. So here we've got a recent African skull, and here's the skull from Iwo Eleru in Nigeria. You can see that this skull is much longer, it's much lower. And all in all, it's got a much more what we could call primitive appearance, even though it's only 13,000 years old. And in Katerina's analyses, she found that the nearest neighbour in terms of the overall shape of the skull was this specimen from Tanzania, from a site called Ngaloba, which is, we think, about 140,000 years old. So you've got a specimen that's only 13,000 years old, but it looks like it should be, you know, another 100,000 years older in terms of its shape.
So what's going on?
So this suggests that human evolution in Africa was more complex, that the transition to modern humans was not a straight kind of transition and then a cut-off. The archaic humans did not necessarily die away once they'd given rise to modern humans. They may have been living in some parts of Africa alongside, in a sense, their descendants, and perhaps exchanging genes with them. Just as Neanderthals seem to have interbred with people outside of Africa, archaic humans in Africa could have been interbreeding with modern humans inside of Africa, and this skull may show a reflection of that interbreeding between archaic and modern humans.
Well, you've just heard there that Iwo Eleru in Ondo State founded this particular skull in 1965, but after all the research done on it, it is 13,000 years old. These are part of who we are, but many Yoruba people would rather throw that away, trying to save a corrupt country called Nigeria that is already sunk like the Titanic. Let's come back to Vietnam. I'm going to be using different source. One of the source this afternoon is going to come from history.com, which talks about a lot of history. In Nigeria today, history has been deducted away from education or curriculum. So let's look at it. 1945, Vietnam declares its independence from France. Is it just an easy task to declare independence? What happened before you can declare an independence out of a particular country, or as at that time when France was colonizing that part of the world? There was a particular man called Chi Minh, Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh, as we've been able to find who this particular man is. As many of us today are looking up to Dr. Chief Sunday IGBOHO and Professor Banji Akintoye and the rest of the people that history will remember. Today, history remember this man as well, because it was one of those that decided that they've had enough of the time of the colony or the colonial masters known as the France, and he decided to do what a nationalist would have done. Who is he? We'll learn a little bit more about him, but let me give you a brief. On the 2nd of September, 1945, this particular gentleman that you're looking in front of your screen, let's see if we can get a bit of a full image of him, so that for the benefit of those of you that do not understand what IGBOHO is fighting for today, but we hope that one day you would all pray that IGBOHO that has stood behind for the rest of us will be well appreciated, but we will appreciate him while he's alive rather than when he's gone. I've never met Obatala. I don't know who Shango is. I only read about them, but today I am seeing IGBOHO as one man that stood out of millions of Yoruba people to say that we've had enough and it is time that we take back what belongs to us. So this particular gentleman today, I'm sure many Vietnamese will continue to worship him, just as the generation that are coming today will go back and read the history of how he, out of millions of people as at the time, out of whatever was happening, he never listened to anybody. Many things were said about him. I'm not talking about IGBOHO now. I'm talking about this particular gentleman known as Ho Chi Minh. But something important took place in 1945, September 2nd. On the day Ho Chi Minh declare independence of Vietnam from France. How did he was able to do all these, all that we will learn in the course of this program today? The proclamation paraphrase the U.S. Declaration of Independence in declaring all men are born equal. But it seems that Yoruba people are not born equal because we have been taken away from the real resources. We have been taken away from our identity and who we are by what the British rephrased by telling us that we are Nigerians and we should save Nigeria, even though Nigeria has never been prosperous to many of us. Maybe to some few Yoruba people, but when we look at the total population of Britain today, which is less than 65 million, almost everybody is gaining something. Even those of us that came some 24 years ago, we are benefiting, even though we are not born in this country, but we are still benefiting as much as many of the British citizens. The only difference is if you do not have the right requirement at some stage, you might not benefit a lot. But the moment you become a status granted, you are likely to enjoy this country just like a British citizen. Many Yoruba people today at home are not able to enjoy the territory known as Yoruba land. And I'm talking about in their millions. So when people say that Yoruba people are doing very well, Yoruba people are enjoying, the question is, what are the statistics? What statistics are they talking about? Are we talking about in large scale or just a very small number? So on the 2nd of September 1945, Ho Chi Minh declared the independence of Vietnam from France. At some point, the Yoruba people would have to stand firm and make a full declaration away from Nigeria should things do not go the way we want it. I am not talking about the fraudulent declaration that was proclaimed in 2022 by those gullible idiots. I am talking about a full declaration with about 60,000 well-armed men with guns. 60,000 Yoruba men should be preparing themselves, and I will be one of those 60,000 to carry arms to defend the Yoruba territory. This is what we should be preparing our mind for if we are truly ready to get out of Nigeria. We need approximately 60,000 men with nothing less than AK-49 and RPG and all kind of weapons. When that declaration is done, we can protect that territorial space and the airspace of Yoruba land. Nothing less than that, we are not yet ready for a Yoruba nation. All we are doing is we are still campaigning and preparing our mind for an exit. Nobody is going to let you go if you do not go and prepare 60,000 men to fight when that time comes. I am not talking about fighting the Fulanis. I am talking about fighting to defend that territory when that particular day comes in the history of Yoruba people, when we will officially declare a Yoruba country. But in 1945, it has been done before, and it can be repeated in 2021st century. When we talked about all men are born equal, well, they might tell you that all men are born equal, but a Yoruba man and a Yoruba woman are not born equal to the British citizen and an American citizen and a France and a German citizen, because they have looked at you as you are not meant to be born equal. So for us to retain who we are, we must be ready at some point to face the real dilemma and declare a full Yoruba country, but with 60,000 men fully armed to teeth to defend that territorial ground. So let's go back again to the history of Vietnam. Hours after the Japan surrender in the World War II, as I speak to you today, there is a presence of Ukraine and Russia fighting each other in Sudan. I'll be telling you a little bit more about that. So that means that the war presently going on inside Ukraine has left Ukraine thousands of miles straight into Sudan, where evidence is pointing that Zelensky has given 100 special men to fight along with those he supported in Sudan. I'll be telling you a little bit more about that. But as we are saying that whether there's a World War III, World War III is currently being played out, but the only difference we are not saying is that nobody's using a nuclear weapon yet, because one has nuclear weapon, even though some might have 2 or 3, but the one that have one is ready to use it against the one that have multiple. But in the World War II, after Japan surrendered, Vietnamese communist Ho Chi Minh declares the independence of Vietnam from France. At what point would the Yoruba people be preparing their mind for such a day? But we need so much resources before we can do such. You cannot declare a country that you will not be able to protect and you will not be able to defend. It is of no point. It is a waste of time. So you are better off to continue what we are doing right now until we are fully ready for such. No Yoruba elite is going to give you the money for such. No Yoruba wealthy woman will be ready to fund it. That means it's either we fund it or we look for a means to fund that particular date. But we must be preparing our mind for a full total declaration of Yoruba country away from Nigeria if we are truly interested in a full independent country. So, the proclamation paraphrased the United States Declaration of Independence in declaring all men are born equal. The Creator has given us inviolable right, life, liberty, and happiness, and was cheered by enormous crowd gathering at Hanoi Babdin Square. It will be 30 years. However, before whose dreams of united communist Vietnam became reality. Who is this particular gentleman that I'm looking at this particular afternoon? He was born in 1890. Ho Chi Minh left Vietnam as a cook on a French steamer in 1911. That was exactly 3 years before the fraudulent amalgamation. Just like many of us that have traveled out of Nigeria. So when some of you ask us, you cannot sit outside Nigeria and trying to say that you will break up Nigeria. Well, it has been done before. I will not be the first and I will not be the last. So when some of you do not understand that history is probably just repeating itself, this gentleman also left his country as a French steamer in 1911. After several years as a seaman, after several years, he lived in London, just like I am living in London after 24 years. And then moved to France. I have not moved away from UK yet, but if things needs to be, I will move out of UK and move to somewhere else if UK does not permit me to continue my fight for the Yoruba people. UK will not be able to hold me down here, but for the time being, I am not doing anything more than asking for the right of the Yoruba people, just like that same right is being asked by the same country that now wants to come out of UK, known as Scotland. And I have another evidence to back that. So when some of you think that what we are doing is something that is illegal, I can tell you, it is not an illegal, it is just that you do not understand the game of how the world is being played. The world understands what I'm talking about. The least they could do is to continue to tell you to vote every 4 years, which is what Katrina Lang, the former British ambassador, told you to do. She has moved away from Nigeria to another country, just like the former American ambassador told you the same thing. They will tell you to continue to vote, even though voting will not be able to resolve all the problems encountered in today's Nigeria. Rather than them telling us to go back on the drawing table, and the British, the Americans especially, come together and discuss how we can break away out of Nigeria, there's not going to be a war, but rather what they are telling you is continue to vote, and then if nobody is voting, then that means you are not using your rights. The same Britain that almost took away our rights in 1959 by making sure that the census was not accurate, making sure that the first election was rigged. And like I said, even Benny Sandy said in an interview with Sky News that Scotland should be given the opportunity to go if they want to. Let's watch the video for a few minutes.
There is one constitutional issue in the UK that I'm really interested, genuinely, to know what your opinion is on it, and that's Scottish independence. Look, it might be something that you haven't given much thought to, but over here it's such a live debate because, of course, we're looking for a new leader of the Scottish National Party. And one of the arguments is that, look, Scotland tends to attack more left politically. They've obviously had a Conservative government in Westminster for over a decade. What's your instinct on it? What's your gut say?
Look, I'm not an expert on UK politics. I very much appreciate what the people of Scotland have done, what they're fighting for. And my, initial thought, not being an expert, they want to go their own way, they should be allowed to.
So you think they should at least have the opportunity to
that would seem to me, don't tell anybody I said that.
Well, we're not telling anybody, Benny Sandy, but I hope that you would also be supporting the Yoruba people when they say they want to go their separate ways. Let's come back quickly. The focus point this afternoon is about Vietnam, how they were able to declare their country, how they have now become a very powerful country that is having so much relationship around the world. And one of those relationships that they are having is what I can show you from this end right now. Let's go and show you something quickly, because as at yesterday, if not day before yesterday, we saw that they are still having a very cordial relationship with Australia. This is a country that took their hands away from the French country as at the time. Vietnam has become, and this is coming from the one of the Australian newspaper, Vietnam has become the popular kid in the class. When is Yoruba going to become a popular kid in the class? Which is why Australia has followed the United States and China in signing a new deal. When are we going to start signing new deal as Yoruba people, as Yoruba country with many countries around the world? Let's stick to the history. So we are giving you a bit of background of the gentleman that you're looking at the picture at the far corner right of my screen. His name is Ho Chi Minh. He was born in 1890. He was a cook until he traveled out of Vietnam. Maybe after he traveled out of Vietnam, he realized that they are now better off to have their own independent country as against being controlled by French or France. He traveled in a French steamer in 1911, many years after he was born. He was a seaman. He lived in London, then moved to France, where he became a founding member of the French Communist Party in 1920. That's 6 years after the fraudulent amalgamation. So you can see that many of us that are taking the step behind Professor Banji Akintoye. Professor was a historian. He left Nigeria to live in America. He returned back to Nigeria. He realized that fixing Nigeria was just too late. We are better off to have our own independent country. And that is why Professor in 2019 registered us under the UNPO, Unrepresented People and Organization, and many other things have come up after that that led to the reason why we are campaigning today. And we can only be grateful to such a man in the history of Yoruba people.
The Yoruba-speaking tribe of Nigeria has been accepted as the 45th member of the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization. Leader of the Yoruba World Congress, Professor Banji Akintoye, says the membership represents a very important step in the collective quest of well-meaning Yoruba people to achieve the goal of dignity and self-determination.
It is my great pleasure and pride to inform you that the Yoruba nation has been admitted to the membership of UNPO. UNPO means Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization, with its headquarters in The Hague. The UNPO expressed their gladness to welcome the Yoruba nation as a new member of UNPO, and they are looking forward to working with us. It is important because it is a great stride, and it represents a very important step in our collective quest to achieve the goal of dignity in the country in which we live, and also to achieve the goal of self-determination for our nation. Our Yoruba nation now has a voice on the international stage via the machinery of the UNPO, which maintains a permanent presence before the United Nations and before other international agencies like the European Union, the African Union, the United States government, and the governments of various other countries across the world.
So when we look at the history of Vietnam today, it is just a repeated history. Maybe the next time Professor will be speaking like this will be a full declaration of Yoruba country, but with 60,000 Yoruba men with fully armed to defend and protect the territory. Anything less than that, it will still be a negotiation with the federal government, with people around the world. You can't declare a country that you cannot protect. Once again, my name is KOIKI, and welcome once again. So he later traveled to Soviet Union, where he studied revolutionary tactics and took an active role in the communists. I'm talking about the man below, known as Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh, as we say, lived in London. From London, he traveled to France. From France, he traveled to Soviet Union. Today, we don't have Soviet Union anymore. What we have now is Russia, where Soviet Union was dissolved in 1992 or 91, somewhere around there. In 1924, he went to China, where he set about organizing exiled Vietnamese communists. Today, the Yorubas that are outside have been said that we are the one pushing towards a new Yoruba country. Yes, we are, because we have lived with the West. We have seen that the West is part of the fraud that created Nigeria, and there is no reason for us to keep that. So those are told might not understand, because many of them might not have traveled out of the country to understand that the resources that we own is no longer in our care. Those resources is now being managed on our behalf. This is the reason why the diaspora, Yoruba diaspora, and even the diaspora from other ethnic groups as well, are pumping so much money to keep Nigeria afloat. Until we, the Yorubas, diaspora, come together and ready to fully harm Yoruba people so that we can declare a Yoruba country, we are not ready to go. All we are going to be doing is Zoom meeting and all many conversation, which diplomacy is good, but it's going to take a very long time. But when we are fully ready, we would all go and source for whatever we need so that we can have a declaration of Yoruba country. But when we look at this particular gentleman, he left London to France. From France to Soviet Union, he then traveled in 1924 to China, where he now set up a Vietnamese communist. He was expelled by China in 1927 because they probably realized that what he is pushing might eventually bring a better opportunity. This is the same country now that China is now also having a relationship with. I mean, imagine the same Vietnam where one of their fighters or one of their revolutionaries, one of the ones that would save them, was expelled from China. China is now having a cordial relationship with the same Vietnam. He was expelled by China in 1927. He traveled extensively before returning to Vietnam in 1941. So when we look at the life of this gentleman, you can see that he has seen, just like Professor Banji Akintoye saw and see, that the Yoruba people should have no other reason than to leave Nigeria so that we can be prosperous people, so that we can become a very important people around the world. We will never be an important people around the world should we remain in this contraction known as Nigeria. So we're going to move swiftly. There he also organized Vietnamese guerrilla organization. We have not gone to that stage yet. When we talk about guerrilla are people that are ready to fight.
gorilla?
The word gorilla is not yet included in the Yoruba nation conversation. When we get to the stage that we are becoming gorilla, that means that we are not going to listen to anybody anymore. It is not the first time that it has been done, but we are saying that there is still room, but we can no longer hold on the room for too long. For those of you that are saying that we should hold on too long, the longer we hold, the longer we might be conquered. And this is what we should start thinking of. So the reason why we need to push quickly is so that we do not become a species eaten by the rest of the world because of their selfish interest. We know because evidence has pointed out that America funded a lot of the problems around the world, just like Britain funded so much as well. But when we talk about gorilla, is a member of a small independent group taking part in irregular fighting, typically against larger regular forces. We cannot fight a battle with the Nigerian military, but we can fight them with a guerrilla warfare. And nobody has ever won people that are fighting guerrilla warfare. It has been done. The IRA were fighting the British through a guerrilla warfare. What we have been doing in the last 4 years of this movement is we are trying to become a very, very diplomatic people. We don't want the bloodshed. I understand that, but if you do not make a push to prepare for a full declaration of Yoruba nation with 60,000 fully Yoruba men that are armed to the teeth with AK-47, RPG, and whatever is needed to defend the territorial land, we are not ready to vacate Yoruba country for the rest of those that wants to take it away from us. So, this man that you are looking at his picture, I'll just call him Ooh, just for argument's sake. He organized a Vietnamese guerrilla organization known as the Bait Minh to fight for one purpose, for the Vietnamese independence. The same Vietnamese today is now having cordial relationship around the world. The Yoruba people should not be gullible to say that we don't want to exit Nigeria because we are not ready to fight. We should be saying that we are ready to fight and we will fight it now. The world will still have a cordial relationship with us 10 years down the line, 30 years down the line, because we have what they need, but what they are doing today is they are keeping us below par by using Nigeria to negotiate with us. That we need to stop. This is where we need everybody to come together rather than having splitter groups all over the place that are just talking on the social media, that are just having Zoom meeting. I don't have the time for all that nonsense anymore. If we are not ready for a full fight, then there's no point calling us for a meeting. You can do that meeting with some other people, but for me, I will not attend such meeting. We need to say it as it is. We should be ready to fight. And let me repeat this in Yoruba for the benefit of Emo Yoruba. Tá a bá ní ọmọ ogun tó jẹ́ 60,000 tó ní ìbọn gidi láti fi jà, gbogbo tá a ṣe ń ṣeré là ń ṣe àìtí ìgbéga Yorùbá nation. 30 years from now, ẹ ní Yorùbá nation gbà. Ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ lọ prepare 60,000 ọmọ ogun tó máa ní AK-47, AK-49 tó máa ní nǹkan ìjà láti fi defend ìlú yẹn nígbà tá a bá make a declaration. If not, gbogbo tá a kàn ṣe preambles ni. And I'll go further with my English because of the presentation this afternoon. So, this man, who, the one you're looking at his picture below on the right-hand side, he set up a particular group or organization known as Bait Minh. The purpose of that is to fight till their last blood so that they can have Vietnamese independence. Japan occupied French Indochina in the 1940s, and they collaborated with the French officials loyal to France's big regime. Ooh, which is exactly what I call him anyway. I didn't realize that that's the same thing they're calling him. Meanwhile, made contact with the Allies and aided operations against the Japanese in the South China. Who are our enemies? We should not work with them. Those that we believe that they are also going to be a little bit lenient with us, we should talk to them so that we can prepare our mind. Nobody is going to give you a freedom on the table or asking for freedom without ready to fight. We should be preparing our mind to fight so that we can take back what belongs to us. The Yoruba land doesn't belong to America. The Yoruba land doesn't belong to Germany. It doesn't belong to 27 European countries. It belongs to the Yoruba people, and I will be one of those 60,000 to carry arms to defend the Yoruba territory when that time is called. Let's go further. Who, meanwhile, made contact with the Allies, aided and operations against Japanese in South China. In the early 1945, Japan ousted the French administration in Vietnam and executed numerous French officials. This video is just a timeline, and I'm going to play that, but all the courtesy goes to History Channel, or History, which is the website we're reading from. And I'm going to mute my mic so that we can listen to this video, 1 minute, 42 seconds. Please share the program. It's very, very important. It is also an educative platform. All right, I'm going to play the video one more time. There are a few things I picked up when that video was playing, and I'm watching it for the first time, even though as I was preparing the program, I was watching it, but I was not fully looking into it. So this time around, I'm going to play the video one more time. And I want us to take note of some of the gray area that I'm going to talk about when we start playing the video without the audio this time around. So when we look at this video, Africa was mentioned. That means that the West were using Africa to fight their war. If you look at this, it says 2.5 million American GIs served in the Vietnam from 1956 to 1975. During the slave trade, we know that they were using Africa to fight their war. And even Church of England, like we told you some few days back, that they were also using slave. They were using us as part of the slave. Many of you today don't want to volunteer. Everybody wants to get paid because they are doing Yoruba Nation. And that is where the problem is. Until we understand that we can no longer be sitting behind the fence saying that if we don't get paid, I will not be involved in Yoruba Nation. Well, that is fine. But we are much better if we all volunteer today so that we can be able to protect and defend our territory. Many people think that by asking to become a member of the Yoruba Nation, you have to be paid a kind of a salary. The question is, who was paying you your salary prior before you become a member of the Yoruba Nation? There would be 11,000 women were there. Women are very useful. Women are also useful individuals because during the war, you need a woman to be able to fight along with you. How do women fight? They become cook, nurse, and taking care. So when we're talking about having a Yoruba Nation, when we have 60,000 men that are ready to fight with all fully armed, we must also have 11,000 women that are ready to make sure that any wounded Yoruba men will be treated when they are brought back to the camp. We will also need people that understand different languages, because when we declare a Yoruba Nation, as an example, you'll be having different people that will come into the country. Just like when IGBOHO's house was invaded, we knew that there were some machineries that were brought into the country to try to kill him based on the language they were speaking, and those languages were understood by some of our people in the house as at the time. Now, this is quite interesting. 12.5% of the troops were African American. There's nothing called African American. These are slaves that were moved from Africa to America for over 500 years. Our forefathers were moved from Africa to become slaves, and they were given uniform to fight for the World War I and World War II for American, Europe. None of our forefathers were paid their full pension as we speak today. %85 of them were white. I wonder when people say, I am too young to fight. I don't want to fight because you are not ready to die for Yoruba country. You are not ready to die, but you are ready to die for Nigeria. I posted a video, and I pray that the soul of this young mother, or sister rather, that cried her eyes out. Let me quickly give you, I'm sure most of you are not following us on the Twitter, and I don't know why, but it is important that you follow us on Twitter. That is where we can post some of this video. But I'll just, for the benefit of this particular program, give you how she was crying because her brother, her only brother, was killed in Nigeria. Don't wait until you become a species for Nigeria. Many of us have tried to fix Nigeria in the past, but today, if anyone is still trying to fix Nigeria, you are as dumb, as stupid as anything else. Let's listen to her. May the soul of the brother continue to rest in peace. And like I said, this video was sent to me this morning. I've watched the 48 minutes, and I pity this sister, but she says, if you are thinking of becoming a Nigerian police, you are better off to run to Libya and become a slave. Let's listen as I mute my mic for a few minutes.
Your papa na soldier. He don't die for soldier. Your elder brother is a soldier. You don't die for soldier. You enter Bopo. You can't die for Bopo. Your papa na soldier. You don't die for soldier. You retire. Your senior brother na soldier. You don't die for soldier.
Drinking coffee every day didn't work for me.
My brother died, they don't save you. They don't save you, say my brother died, wetin I do? Wetin I do for this one? I tire for life, oh. Wetin I do? Wetin? So that's so. I foresee they talk today now. And my brother and they watch. I don't even know my brother died. Sometimes body go they do me idea.
All right. You can go and watch that video. I haven't got the time. I just pray that the family, she's not the only one facing this so much stress in Nigeria. Many families are going through the same problem. As I speak to you today, over 300 children have been kidnapped yesterday. I don't know why the president is still sitting in his cocoon and the vice president that should be in the forest looking for these children. But that is Nigeria. So don't wait until Nigeria happens to your family before you come on the social media and you start crying out. I'm sorry, there's not much I can say to this, my sister. I pray that you are supporting Biafra. If you have not supported Biafra, please go and register now while they continue their campaign, for the liberation of their people, rather than sitting behind the fence. Let's move swiftly. The video and all information is on my timeline on Twitter if you want to go and follow that. Now, let's come back to Vietnam. As we continue to give you a bit of background, I've told you that many of you are scared because you don't have the balls. Especially now, I'm talking to those of us that are below 40 years old. I will still count myself as at below because I'm still 40 plus. But if you're waiting for those old men that are 50 to come and fight for us, you will wait till thy kingdom come. We are not expecting our mothers to even fight on our behalf. I am now talking to those of our young Yoruba youth. As at the World War II, the average age of a soldier was 21 years old. So when some of you say, I cannot fight because I don't want to die, well, I hope that you don't get caught up in the nonsense called Nigeria today. This is the time that you need to be trained and be ready to carry arms and defend the territorial ground of Yoruba land. I, like I said, will be one of those 60,000 to carry arms, well trained. So today, while you are scared, as at the time they were going around the world, they were taking young under age, 21 years old, to liberate what we now call the British Empire. The reason why the British Empire ran for 200 years is because they were using 21 years old people to fight the war. So if you are waiting for your uncle that is already 50, if you're waiting for your mother, like I said, all those 50 plus failed us. They refused to speak out as at the time to speak out. This generation must not sit back and wait for them. We should rally around IGBOHO today. IGBOHO is 50 plus. He's still fighting. So we should rally around IGBOHO so that we can be able to have 60,000 men fully armed. And when I say fully armed, I mean fully armed. But don't expect the Yoruba millionaire or billionaire to give you money to buy such weapons. We would have to look for where we need the money to buy weapons so that we can protect ourselves from invaders. So I'm going to move swiftly. When Japan formally surrendered to the Allies on the 2nd of September 1945, Wu Chi-minh, the picture is behind on the far right corner, felt emboldened enough to proclaim the independent Democratic Republic of Vietnam. That is the day that we are looking forward to should peace is not allowed for us to break away from Nigeria. We should be ready to prepare for a full declaration with about 60,000 men ready to defend it. Anything less than that, we should not declare a Yoruba nation yet, because we will lose and it will become another setback for years to come. French forces seized the southern Vietnam. Definitely, there's no way you declare that the Nigerian soldier will not come after you. But when you know what you're doing, with so many opportunities that we own the territory, we can defeat them. And yes, we should be preparing our mind that countries around the world will support Nigeria just like they did during the war with the Biafra in 1967. French forces seized the southern Vietnam and opened talks with the Vietnamese communists. These talks collapsed in 1946, and the French warship bombarded the northern Vietnamese city of Ip Ong, killing thousands. So we should prepare our mind that should we declare a Yoruba country today, the Nigerian soldier, whether under the leadership of Tinubu, will kill many people. And that is the reason why we should be preparing our mind for the worst case scenarios. In response, the Viet Minh, which is, remember we told you about the Viet Minh. The Viet Minh were those that were preparing to liberate their people. They are ready to make sure that after that declaration, whatever was going to happen, they will fight to their last blood to defend that territory. Today, the same Vietnam is now having cordial relationship around the world. That is what I want us to focus on. Don't look at the pain. We cannot gain something without a pain. We must be ready to face the pain. The Yoruba people are not cowards. We can go through that pain and enjoy it after 10, 20 years. I will still be 60 years old. I don't want to be a 60 years old man in the same Nigeria, even though I don't live in Nigeria. I am 6,000 kilometers away from Nigeria. But my age mate that are going to be living in Nigeria will not be able to live. That is even subject to whether they live up to 52 years old, according to the World Health Organization, that says that the life expectancy of a Nigerian is 52 years old. So those my age mate, I am not praying for anyone to die. I can die, anybody can die, but we will not die. But what I'm saying is that the present Nigeria today, look at the statistics. You can tell that many youths that say they are not ready to fight for Yoruba country or Biafra country have died either through a straight bullet or through, somebody was telling me in a voice note that was sent to me that somebody was taken to the police station and right there and there they were killed. So when some of you are saying that we are scared, the question is, who are you scared for? 20 years down the line, the same country that will not defend us or even accept us will come back and have cordial relationship with us. Just like Vietnam has become a popular key. I want to go back again. So those that were known as the Vietnamese were those that were ready to fight when that declaration was announced. Declaration was announced, but the French attack came back, but they were ready to hold on to it. That is the strategy that the Biafra are doing today. They know that when the federal government comes to attack them, and I was listening to Simon Ekpa this afternoon, I think, his presentation with one of the countries that hosted it. And he said that there is no evidence where the Nigerian military have shown that there is an attack on the Biafra Liberation Army. And yes, they know. The Nigerian army will not go into the territory where the Biafra Liberation Army is because they have the same weapon just like the Nigerian army. If the Boko Haram terrorists can have weapons, there's no reason why we should be scared of saying that we don't have to own one. We should be talking about weapons to prepare ourselves because Boko Haram will kill many of you in Yoruba territory if you do not start getting yourself armed. And if you think I'm joking, I think we have someone that reminded us that we should all go and arm ourselves because if otherwise, many people will lose their life from the Nigerian army that you are waiting for. Even though a Yoruba man is there, Nigerian army is being compromised before Lagbaja. Lagbaja will not be able to know much, but this man told us something. Let's listen to him.
Every one of us must rise up. The armed forces are not neutral. They collude. They collude. They collude with the armed bandits. They kill people, kill Nigerians. They facilitate their movements. They cover them. If you are depending on the armed forces to stop the killings, you will all die one by one.
One, but you're likely to die one at a time, just like that our sister that was crying because the brother was trying to rescue people that were kidnapped by the terrorists, just like many Nigerians. And I'm going to be bringing this program to an end because I have just an hour and I've done an hour plus. We'll be coming back for the part 2. Make sure you don't miss the part 2. I don't know when that is going to happen, but you stick to the platform. Make sure you follow it. So I'm just going to show us one more quickly. In response, the Vietnamese launched an attack against the French in Hanoi on December 19, 1946. So you can see that there was a declaration in 1945. It took the French to attack them, and it also took the same 1 year that the Vietnamese launched an attack back again. We should prepare our mind to launch an attack with anyone that tries to come against our line when that particular time comes. We must be preparing our mind for such. If otherwise, like I said, we are not ready for a declaration. You don't declare a country if you're not ready to attack back. Because if you think that you're not going to be attacked because Tinubu is there, many of you will die like chicken. And just as we say, many people are crying today is because communities refuse to get to understand that you need to buy weapons and defend yourself. You don't have a country anymore. You've lost that country. There's nobody that can protect that country. And let me quickly show you this. A lady asked on Twitter, known as X today, at Abitayo, where in Nigeria can you go for camping in the woods? Well, Dr. Kemi Olunloyo replied, Oyo State, IGBOHO or Iseyin, where my dad used to take us for camp as kids. Now, Fulani terrorists, there's nothing called Fulani herdsmen. These are full-blown terrorists. Have now infiltrated. That is why Sunday was named after his hometown. The British turned that into a campground. Today, many of you cannot visit IGBOHO as a camping ground because Fulani terrorists have currently taken over all our forests. I pity Yoruba people that are fighting the wrong fight when we should come together and fight everything that needs to be fought, because one day, I don't pray so, but I look forward to whatever can crash Nigeria. This happened in the north, in Kaduna yesterday. I pray it doesn't happen in Yoruba land, but it has happened before, because we've seen students that were kidnapped, but not to the amount of those that were kidnapped in this particular video. After this video, I'm going to wind down the program. Like I said, the part 2 will be coming. I don't know when, but this is still a conversation, and any conversation still have opportunity for peace. The day that that peace is thrown into the ocean, we should be preparing ourselves for war. I'm going to mute my mic because I have just about less than 10 minutes to end this program now.
We beg you in the name of God, where is our president? Where is our governor?
Sorry, I got to come back quickly there. You see the woman is asking, where is our president? Your president is nowhere. Tinubu is nowhere, because Tinubu is just another puppet for the West. So if you're waiting for Bola Tinubu, the president, you might as well just wait for more Boko Haram to finish you in that community and kill as many of you. If you're waiting for the United Nations, they are bomb bastard, they're not going to do anything. If you're waiting for IMF, they are bomb bastard, they're not going to do anything. If you're waiting for World Bank, they are bomb bastard. If you're waiting for African Development Bank, they are bomb bastard. If you're waiting for the European Union, they are bomb bastard, they're not going to do anything. If you're waiting for African Union, they are all bomb bastard. None of these organizations are loyal to us. It is us that needs to come together as indigenous people and face these Boko Haram terrorists on the square with guns. You don't fight them with sugarcane.
Please don't let them take them away from us. Please follow them to the forest and rescue our loved ones. In some families, 7 members were kidnapped. Another 5 were taken.
After receiving reports of a bandit attack on a primary and secondary school in Kaduna, Governor Obasani led a delegation to Kuriga village in Chikun local government to get first-hand information of the incident. Narrating the tragic incident to the governor, the teacher in the school says at GSS Kuriga, 187 students are presently missing.
Well, I haven't got time for all that nonsense, because that is the nonsense that they keep talking about. You can go and listen to that nonsense on my timeline. Well, let's quickly now talk about why Vietnam is becoming a very popular kid in the class. I'm sure many of you remember that you always have one brilliant boy or brilliant girl during your class, the one that everybody wants to run around with and ask questions. I used to have this, I'm not going to mention her name, she's doing very well in Nigeria today, and every time she flies to London, she will come to my house and spend, a couple of hours with my children and my wife. We will cook for her. She's one of our brilliant during my set in Abeokuta Grammar School. She's doing very well. And I visited her house as well, where she lives with her husband. They're doing very well. That is one out of many Yoruba people that are doing very well without a corrupt system in terms of their money. But Vietnam has become a popular kid in class, which is why Australia has followed the US and China in signing a new deal. This was updated up to 7:20 a.m. yesterday. It is a nation at the act of fierce contest for influencer. When is Yoruba going to become a day that will become the shining ball, the Ogwadulawo that we talked about? There's nothing called Ogwadulawo now. You're all wasting your time. We are not Ogwadulawo. We are just wasting our time. When we have 60,000 men to protect our territorial ground for a declaration, that is when we become Ogwadulawo. Today, you are all just shouting Ogwadulawo inside darkness, inside poverty, inside languishing in a poverty country that should have been the most populous nation, not Nigeria, the most populous black nation like Obama called. They are all fraud. And I'm looking forward to the new election coming in November in America. It's going to be a very important one for the history of mankind. On Thursday, Vietnam and Australia signed a comprehensive strategic partnership. This is what we should be talking about. Not come and tell me Fulani is killing us. We will kill Fulani because if Fulani terrorists are killed, you must be killed. American doesn't allow terrorists, they kill them. British doesn't allow terrorists. But when we talk about the reason why we want Yoruba nation, so that we can have a comprehensive strategic partnership. You cannot use Adeleke as the governor of Osun State. He might have good intention, but his intention will be locked down in Nigeria to make Osun a great place. Osun has a lot of gold, but yet many people live in abject poverty. Ondo State has a lot of water for fish, yet Island is bringing your fish to Nigeria. Are you not crazy people? This is the reason why we are saying, oh, we own Apapa. You don't own Apapa. Apapa belongs to the West. You don't own anywhere anymore. But rather, we are quick to fight the Igbo people. I laugh at Yoruba idiot. You want to fight the Igbos when we should first fight to take our territory and then put measures to make sure that nobody takes away what belongs to us. But you have allowed Tinubu to now use himself to enrich the Lebanese. What are you going to do to that? What are you going to do with the Lebanese that have now taken over the whole of Lagos State? I pity a lot of you. Well, it is a free platform and we always ask for donation because that donation helps us a lot. And the details is already put on the screen. So, as I wind down this afternoon, I just want us to take note of this headline. Why is a country as at 1945 making the bold decision to make a declaration under the leadership of who? Are we ready for such as well? Or are we just all pretending and then calling me for all kind of stupid meetings? I haven't got time for all that nonsense. We should start thinking strategic. And I don't need anybody to start sending voice note and feedbacks and all that. Leave Fulani alone. Let's talk about the way that we should take this movement to the next level. We need to rally around Baba Akintoye. They need money. We need to rally around IGBOHO. They need money. They need our support. I don't need go and watch this stupid video on YouTube. Why do I need to go and be watching all these YouTube videos? I don't need all that nonsense. We need to start talking about how to fully arm 60,000 Yoruba men to prepare for war that is already on our doorstep. And if you think I was the one that said so, maybe, as I always say, as a journalist, we have a lot of people that have said that the war is already on our doorstep. What should we be doing? Should we sit back and be eating moi moi or be eating guguru? This is one of our own. The Igbos don't like him. That is their own cup of tea. Professor Wole Soyinka remain a Yoruba man. We would love him till we die. If the Igbo don't like him, I don't give a toss. But this is what he said to tell us that war is already on our doorstep.
So what do they expect of us now that this war is on our doorstep? Of course, there has got to be civil mobilization. And if we keep waiting for this to be centrally handled, we're all going to become, if we're not already, slaves in our own land. That for me is personally intolerable. It's not an acceptable condition.
Well, you heard him there. We are already at war. Let us continue to go and be listening to, oh, somebody is good in analysis, somebody is good in talking. All that doesn't give a country. What gives you a country is a bold decision that must be made between now and then. That bold decision will save many Yoruba people in the near future. If anything less than that, we are all just wasting as much time, and that time is not with us. Please don't send me any YouTube videos. I'm not interested in any YouTube videos. All that is not going to solve the problem. What we need now is start raising funds as quickly as possible. I'm not telling you to put the fund in my own account. Put the fund where Professor Banji Akintoye wants us to put it. Put the money there so that we can be preparing ourselves to buy whatever we need so that when that time comes, we will not cry like a baby. My name is KOIKI. Have a very good afternoon and enjoy the rest of the day. Make sure you stay tuned for the part 2 of this program when I don't know, but it will pop up on your screen. I'm sure you will see. I cannot mention all the names, but I'll just appreciate every single one of you that have joined us this afternoon. I got to go now. Thank you so much. Olayami KOIKI is my name. I will be your last man standing in this movement. 60,000 men, AK-47, RPG, everything we need so that we can be able to say we are ready to go. Anything less than that, it is just diplomacy and it can take some time. Please don't ask me, when are we getting Yoruba Nation? We will get it when everybody knows what we need to do.
gbogbo ẹ̀yin ọmọ ọ̀dọ́ tá a jọ ń káàkiri ọ̀dọ́jọ́ ni wá ẹ má jẹ́ kí a fi àyè gba Fúlàní lórí ilẹ̀ àwọn bàbá wa ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú ọba mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú jòyè mọ́ nígbà tá a la fẹ́ jà fún àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ wa táwa ń kọ́kọ́ ń bú ọba tá à ń bú jòyè èmi náà ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ rí bọ́mọ pẹ́rẹ́ mi padà ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú àgbààgbà kankan mọ́ ẹ má bolóṣèlú kankan ẹ̀rù kálukú ń bẹ̀rù wọn ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ ọba ò lè sọ ìjòyè lè sọ ẹ jẹ́ ká ronú ẹ má jẹ́ ká bá àwọn bàbá jà mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ bú wọn mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ àṣẹ wọn àwọn ará pẹ̀lú wọn àwọn àgbà tó bá jó lóṣèlú tá a bá fẹ́ kọ́ wọn rẹ̀ wá lọ́wọ́ á gbé wọn mọ́ra á gbé wọn mọ́ra ni à ní bú wọn mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ àṣejẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ má jẹ́ àdàlúrú a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì ṣèjẹ̀gbọ́n